YouTube Ozzy going the Goat House is back. And right when things started to get a little quiet in the NFL, boom, Davante Adams traded to the Raiders. Kind of one of those trades that just never actually happens because you start kind of linking Adams to the Raiders because Derek Carr, he played with them. You know, those trades just never happen, even though we talk about them. But it actually happens. I don't think any of us were expecting it, especially at that time. So we're here to break it down, and I'll give a grade for each team here. Start to think one side, start to think a little bit more, maybe growing on me a little bit. We'll talk about what I mean here. So we got full NFL coverage. We graded a bunch of free agency signings. We still got to grade some more, kind of waiting for more to happen here, waiting for Deshaun Watson to make his decision. We were talking about the latest news on that on Twitter. It's going to take a little bit of time, actually, which is unfortunate. But it's either the Saints or the Falcons. We do know that. But follow us on Twitter, live updates, breaking news, rumors, thoughts, and more. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on because we got you covered here. Cannot wait for the draft, and this trade had something to do with the draft as well. But here's our Twitter. Just a lot of updates here, breaking news, always talking with you guys, so appreciate your support on there. So the trade, Davante Adams goes to the Raiders with his Fresno State quarterback, Derek Carr. Raiders needed a receiver. They also extended him for big money. We talked about that, huge money. We talked about that. Raiders got a lot of cap space now and in the future. Packers get 2 picks, first-round pick, 22nd overall, and a second-round pick, 53rd overall. So it's pretty good picks there for the Packers. Something else that was interesting, even though he was franchise tagged, another team could have came along and made him an offer. If the Packers couldn't match, then that team would have to give up 2 first-round picks. So if the Raiders did it the good old-fashioned way. No, I think trading is the good old-fashioned way. If the Raiders did it that way, they would have to give up 2 first-round picks. I don't know if that was an option for anybody, but that's something interesting as well. But, yeah, it's pretty wild. The Packers, Davante Adams is kind of known as the best receiver in football. I know some other guys are definitely coming from the year that Cooper Kupp had. So some people may put him at the top, and that's understandable. But the Packers kind of, they lose that, and the Raiders get that, honestly, or on top of Hunter Renfrow, who had a fantastic season as well. So Derek Carr gets his guy. Adams can dominate outside in the slot. So there's that. They did have to pay him a lot of money, along with trading the first and the second-round pick. They do have other needs as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's just get to the grades here. So the Packers, I'm just thinking more and more, and I kind of changed my full opinion after first glance, I guess first thinking about it. So I'm going to give them a B-, so I didn't change my mind like a whole lot or anything here. So first glance, it's not great because you lose a star elite receiver, That's never good, obviously. I think it affects Rodgers a little bit, perhaps. Another thing is, you think, maybe they could get a little more. They get a first and a second, which is a good amount, but I thought they could maybe add something else, a late or a day 3 pick or something. So all those things aren't great. Now they got to try to find another receiver like Davante Adams. These are kind of the negatives on why. First glance, maybe want to grade it in the C range, maybe a little lower, but there are some positives you start to think about here because the Packers were very tight on cap space. Davante Adams had a 20.145, cap hit. You clear that, so now you actually have, you have more cap space than a lot of the league right now. You can get some guys back and add some players on where you were weak. That's kind of the good thing. But bigger picture here, what I look at, and it is tough losing a player like Davante Adams, but the Packers were a team that they were very good, but they weren't able to get over the hump as it was. Well, now it definitely wasn't Davante Adams' fault, but something needed to change. And with the Packers' cap space situation, what route were they heading? We're bringing Aaron Rodgers back. What route were they heading? They were heading in pretty much staying as the same team that couldn't get over the hump, but also they're kind of getting rid of players here and there. Darius Smith, Billy Turner, who wasn't great, but they could have used him at right tackle in the playoff game, so he's definitely better than a lot of options out there. Just moving on from players like that, and then no cap space to get better. So they're actually kind of the same, but worse. So how are they going to get over that hump? But now they move on from one receiver. It's tough, but they have a lot of cap space, and now they actually can get more players. So you move on from one player, you can get more players. So instead of having one receiver trying to carry you, the teams double them up, and then the offense slows down. Now you can get, hopefully, you got to do some work, a wide variety of receivers. You can get better, across the defensive line. Add with Kenny Clark perhaps, so you can add some other pieces as well. Easier said than done to actually have to go do it. So I guess there is a positive. Like, hey, all right, the path wasn't looking too great. We were kind of going to stay the same, but by getting rid of players because of cap situation and not getting new players, we're kind of just relying on our only draft picks. So now you have some spending money, and then now you have some extra draft picks. When you're tight on cap space, you want more valuable draft picks, and that's what the Packers got. You have to draft well, though. The Packers' past drafts definitely have not been bad. I don't love them. They're going to have to do a little bit better. You're going to have to kind of think outside the box, get unique, kind of get outside your comfort zone. Basically, go grab a receiver. I mean, the young receivers these days are just taking over. And they're cheap, too. Even if you draft in the first round, you draft them with 22nd overall. So if you go get that right receiver, Aaron Rodgers was upset that 1 year because he did all this work, film review on some of the receivers in the draft class, and the Packers didn't even take a receiver. They didn't care about his input. So maybe this is part of it because Rodgers is staying, obviously. So do the homework on those receivers, figure out which ones you like, and, these receivers are pretty damn good these days. They get separation. They have the big playability, so and you got 2 first-round picks, you got 2 second rounds. So there is some positive there. So I did boost it up in what I would view as a good grade range, B-. You still lost an elite player. That's never good. You got 2 picks. And you think you probably would have got more than 2 picks, but it's not too far off value there. And then, again, you can't just say, all right, we got these picks. We're going to find replacement for Davante Adams and get more players. You have to actually go out and do it. You actually have to go make the right pick. So things need to happen to kind of keep increasing this grade. But there are some thoughts in there, as you can tell, that are kind of growing on me. For the Raiders, we're going to grade it an A. So, I graded the Raiders acquired Rock Ya-Sin in a trade yesterday. I graded that. I had a herd of Raiders fans that weren't too thrilled with me about that. Those guys also informed me that Rock Ya-Sin was a top 5 corner. So you kind of get an idea what type of fans that we were dealing with there and why we can't really take them serious. So, but maybe a little more happy with me on this one. I gave it an A. If those types of fans were going to grade this an A+, no matter if they got like Randall Cobb in the deal. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But we're going to give this one an A because, they get a big-time receiver that has chemistry with Derek Carr. I know at the college level, but, arguably the best receiver in football. I think most people would agree, would say so. And that's what they needed, too. Hunter Renfrow really taking those leaps. Dominant slot receiver. Very good route runner. Davante Adams, very good route runner. He's a dominant outside and slot receiver. Those are the best receivers in football. Guys that can dominate both, have the great footwork, can get open, have the great hands. So that's just big time. There's a lot of things you like about this too, and they give him a crazy contract. I guess you traded a first and a second. Like I said with the Packers, maybe they could have got a little bit more. But I do think part of it was like, okay, hey, we're gonna give you first and second, but you gotta remember, we gotta give this guy a giant contract. So that's kind of part of it there. And they gave him a pretty crazy contract. Not that he's not worth it or anything, but on top of that, first and second, but the Raiders were, I think they were second in the most cap space before they made this deal this year. Next year, they were projected most in the NFL cap space. And then in 2024, fourth in cap space. So, as you can tell, we've been talking about that all offseason. The Raiders have decent cap space this year. They have loads of cap space in the future. So, they have money to work with. They have definitely have money to work with. So, easily can pay Davante Adams what they paid him, obviously. So, that helps. They can still make other moves because of that cap space now with the money they can borrow from the future too, which teams do. So that's good. I want to get to my favorite part of this. First, maybe, they got, just like the Packers. Like I said, there is positive. Hey, we got a bunch of draft picks. We need draft picks, save money, and some of these young guys are taking over. But you actually got to go out and do it. So here's something from the Raiders. that they need defensive linemen pretty bad. I'm not talking about pass rushers. They have Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. Defensive lineman. Patrick Graham's a very good defensive coordinator, very good defensive coach. I've been preaching that. But when he had success with the Giants actually had a pretty damn good defensive front there, with mainly with Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, but they also had Dalvin Tomlinson for a little bit. Those guys were the beginning of the defense. That's what started the defense, while the Giants had some good defenses. So they need to go get some interior guys. They need to go get some interior guys. They don't have a first or second round pick. We've seen some mocks with one of the Georgia interior guys up there, perhaps. They also could use another offensive lineman or two. I'm mainly looking at the defensive lineman. So that's it's kind of bad and then good, and then let's wait and see what they do, because the bad is you don't have a first or second to take care of that. The good is, again, they still have this cap space. They still have cap space now. They still have cap space in the future they can use from backload contracts slightly. So they can still do that, but they got to go out and do it. Can we talk about the Packers? They got to go out and actually draft well. Raiders got to go out and actually do that. Create this elite team. I love the direction they're heading. I love that they're not afraid to go get better. Like, hey, we got to go take this risk. We got to go get this guy that we can get here that's going to make us better. My favorite part, though, is all that focus on basically here with the offense. We got to go make this offense better. I love that. There's some teams that are kind of stuck, and it doesn't sound like the worst thing when teams do that. Like, all right, we'll add some on the offense, we'll add some on the defense. Maybe there's nothing elite that we added, but we added both. We kind of made it more balanced because we needed help on both. And that sounds okay, but sometimes it's really not. And the Raiders definitely needed help on both. Like I said, they need defensive line, but in that division with those offenses that you're competing with, you want your goal is to have the best offense. And you get a guy like Davante Adams with Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. You're gearing towards that. You're trying to get that. You look at that playoff game against the Bengals. I talked about this too. You see what they put out in the field on defense on paper, mainly because it was injured and they needed more help. On the defense looks like that's going to be the problem in this playoff game. And defense wasn't great, but really the problem was the offense was inconsistent. They had the ability to push the ball more, and they were not. They came alive late. So kind of when they lost, going to the drawing board, like, the defense needs to look a lot better, but really we got to make sure our offense is our identity like it's supposed to be. It's got to be better. It's got to be more consistent. It did not live up to the hype. The defense lived up to where it was supposed to be. So the offense needs to be better, especially when a team like the Bengals in the playoff game, if you're the Raiders, we were stopping them in the red zone, actually. We got to be more consistent offensively. So let's go finish off this offense. Let's go make sure it's there where it's supposed to be. Let's make sure it's more consistent. Let's make sure Derek Carr is the best he can be. So that's probably my favorite part, is that they weren't afraid to get better, and they were kind of like, okay, this is our biggest move of the offseason. It's going to be offense here for that. So I did really like that part of it for the Raiders. So can't wait to see if they're hopefully they're not done. Hope they don't have a first, second round pick. Hopefully they spend a little bit more money. Don't need them to go too insane, because they made some pretty big moves already. And again, for the Packers, it's just draft. I mean, I believe you can win in the NFL by drafting a championship team, but also making those bold moves, those here and there, that you need to. The Rams would be an example of, we couldn't really draft a better quarterback, so let's go trade for that quarterback. And then we've drafted all these guys around these other spots. So that's kind of what I believe in there. So we'll see if the Packers can go. They're heading in a little bit new direction there. Let's see if they can make it worth it. Apparently Adams didn't want to play there. It's hard to believe, but he didn't want to play there. It sounded like he wanted to go to Vegas. I guess they get two pretty good picks there. But we'll see. They got to take. I'm not a fan of deciding like right now. The fans do that. But what they're going to draft, like, you got to take this position. But it really feels like the Packers, because you don't know what's going to happen in the draft. You got to take. I'm a fan of taking best available, so I'm not going to sit here and say they have to take a receiver. But if there is a very good receiver on the board, I would like to see them take one. It depends on who it is. But you look at guys, like around that range, like Olave, maybe London. Wilson's not going to be there. Jameson Williams, maybe at 22. Will he be there? It's going to be interesting to talk about here going forward. Again, the Raiders still got a little bit of work to do, but that's kind of to make this team elite. We'll see if they can do it. They weren't afraid to go get better here. Let's hope that they don't stop now. Let's hope that they, for the Raiders' sake, that they kind of keep on going here. That's a tough division. That division's going to – I said it on Twitter. It's kind of like a funny tweet, but I said somebody's going to have to finish last. Like, who the hell is going to finish last in that division? It's pretty wild. Chiefs been a little quiet right now. We know how dangerous that team is still. There's a load of free agents still out there, moves to be made. So we'll see what happens. It feels like they're battling each other without even being on the field right now. Like, all right, your move. This team's making this move. So it's pretty wild. So, yeah. So A for Vegas and B- for the Packers. You know what I like about these two? I start just thinking about more and more and try to find the positives. You see some positives there for the Packers, even though overall this isn't the greatest things. I know the fans are probably a little down about it. The draft should be pretty fun though. That's kind of the things to look out for there. Now they have some spending money. Go get Marquez Valdes-Scantling back, and go. Maybe I heard they possibly could be in on Jarvis Landry or a guy like OBJ. Let's see what they do. So I'm excited to see it. But that wraps up the grades video. Just wild trade. I just couldn't believe when I saw the news there, and I know a lot of everyone else was probably like that too. Live updates and always talking with you guys on our Twitter. So check that out. Link down below at NFL. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. All kinds of content, a bunch of videos recently upgrading, a bunch of free agency signings. We definitely have some more to get to. Still waiting on some more signings to happen. A lot of good free agents still sitting out there. It's pretty wild. So join us for all that. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.